is Hannah, and this is my art YouTube channel. Hi guys, so I'm a fine artist and I also have my own business called DoWhatYouWantArtShop. Feel free to check out my Etsy shop. I can also be found on TikTok and Instagram under the same name. So today, it's the first video I'm making. I'm just going to do a little intro, tell you about my art background, how I got to where I am today, and then also just what to expect to see on my channel in further videos. So let's get started. So as I mentioned, my art shop is called DoWhatYouWantArtShop, and I just want to kind of explain the name of that a little bit. So most artists will find one particular medium or one particular style that they like to paint in. That's not the type of artist that I am. I like to try everything. I like to try different things. I can't just stick to one look. So with that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to name my shop Do What You Want Art Shop because it's how I live my art life, and I hope you guys do too. Don't ever let anyone constrain you to one style or medium or anything like that. You got to do what you want at the end of the day. But anyway, so I started off actually with photography. In 10th grade, I believe it was, I took a photography class and fell in love with it. I loved it. I want to learn more every day. I would stay after school, frequently talk with my teacher about it, trying to learn more and more, watching videos on it. It was something that really interested me. So that year, my teacher said, you know what, why don't you submit one of your photos to this international contest? I was like, yeah, sure, okay. I was like, I'll pay $25, throw some of my pictures in there, we'll see what happens, right? So the deadline, I think it was like November, and then I think we found out like 6 months later or something like that. So turns out my teacher was right. So this photo was actually published in the International Photographers Forum book back when I was in 10th grade. So I took this photo, and I'll show you the book that it was in. So this is the book that it was in. It did get published right here on this page. I don't know if you can see it, but so that was a big year for me. I was like, whoa, like people actually like my work, you know what I mean? It made me want to learn more. So the following year, I think I took photography too, learning more. And then my senior year is when I actually got into like the fine arts, like painting, drawing, stuff like that. So I think it helped having a background in photography, because in photography you learned about like composition, the rule of thirds and stuff like that. So I think with that knowledge is what helped me excel in the fine arts stuff once I started painting and drawing. So senior year, started learning. I learned, I think, like acrylic paints, and I really got into charcoal drawing with charcoal pencils. That was my favorite. I love doing those. I love doing portraits, and I'll show you guys in a little bit some portraits that I've done. Like I said, I'm going to show you some of my work from the past couple years so you guys can see. But I fell in love with doing charcoal portraits. I thought they were so fun. I prefer it over pencils because of the highlights. I draw on gray tone paper for charcoal. And that really helps when you use a white charcoal pencil to have the highlights pop out. Rather, like, I feel like if you use regular pencil on white paper, you have to be really diligent to go around the white highlighted areas and leave them white. And for me, that's kind of hard. I always forget. I'm like just drawing away and I'm like, oh shoot, I covered up the highlights. But so charcoal is probably my favorite medium to draw with. And then for college, I went for fine arts, graphic design, and business administration. I did that so I can kind of run my own Etsy shop, do my own businesses. But I do have background in fine arts and graphic design. So in college, I started, I kept up with the charcoal portraits, but in college is when I actually started doing pet portraits, and that blew up for me. People loved them. I had orders like every month of people ordering them for their friends, family, birthdays, holidays, like anything you could imagine. People would approach me and ask, "Hey, can you draw my cat, my dog?" I've done horses, hamsters. So I've done a lot of different animals for people. But that year, so actually the first one that I ever drew was this cat. This was the first pet portrait that I had ever drawn. This one actually wasn't of somebody's pet. I had just, I wanted some more practice since people were asking me to do pet portraits because they saw my other work and it was like, oh, she could draw pets. I was like, yeah, sure. So I was like, let me practice a little bit. So this was actually the first one that I drew. And this one ended up going all the way out to California, and it was in a gallery out there. I entered in for a pet specific, animal specific contest. And that month they were featuring all different animal portraits and paintings, drawings from all these artists, but you had to enter, and it was a juried show, so you had to get picked. And then it was pretty cool having to send out my work all the way out to California to be displayed. So that was another big year for me. And with that, then I really started picking up with pet portraits and doing them for people. So it really just grew from there. And so after that, I kind of got more into watercolor painting. Watercolor was always something that I was scared of. I was like, yeah, I don't know if I have the patience for that. I know it's a lot of layering and you have to like wait for it to dry. And I was like, none of that sounds like I have the patience for it. And it's kind of like a little nerve-wracking because if you mess up, there's very limited time that you can fix it, if you can fix it. Whereas like with acrylic, you wait for it to dry, you paint right over it, you can fix it. So I was always really scared of watercolor, but in one of my classes, they made me do watercolor. And actually what we did first was ink. So he had us like on our palettes drop in ink and learn how to paint with that. And I'll show you the first piece that I did with ink. It's a little bit bigger, so I don't have it over here right now, but I will show you guys. So we started with ink, and then our next unit was watercolor. And I think having the background of ink was super helpful when I went to watercolor because I had already learned how much water to add to dilute it, how the material works, and they're really similar, just black and white or color. So then I started doing watercolor, and I did this one piece and I absolutely love it. It's actually this one. This was my first watercolor. So that's the first watercolor piece that I ever did. And I fell in love with the medium. I was like, wow, I really like the way this works. I thought I would hate it, but I love it. And I love the way I was able to work with it and to have the outcome that I did. So from then on, I started doing watercolor, and that's pretty much what I've been doing for the last, year and a half now. I do a lot of watercolor. I still do acrylic or charcoal paintings here and there. Like I said, I can't stick to just one, but I will say right now, watercolor has been pretty consistent over the last year and a half. So I've been doing a lot of that. And I just like to try all different mediums. So before I show you all my work and we'll go through all that, I just want to let you know that on this channel I will be posting tutorials of how I do certain things. So I think my first video will be how to do like a wood texture in watercolor, if that interests anybody, just let you know what's coming up. And so I'll be doing tutorials of how I do things. I will mix it up, whether it's acrylic or charcoal, or I even have a Cricut machine that I make stickers with, so I might show you guys how to do that as well. But at least for now, most likely going to be watercolor, but I will show the other things eventually. And especially if you guys in the comments are like, hey, I'm struggling with drawing with charcoal, or how do you make stickers? Do you mind showing us? You know what I mean? Whatever you guys want to see, I'm more than happy to show you and help you do it on your own. And then on top of the tutorials, for some of my longer paintings or drawings that aren't as quick, I'll probably just post like time lapse of those, so that way you guys can see kind of like my process and how I do things. I will also share with you the materials that I use, and almost do product reviews. They're not going to be sponsored, but just so you guys know like what I've already tested out. It's kind of nice, especially if you guys are just starting with art. It's kind of nice to watch someone that's already kind of gone through the trial and error process of, okay, this brand's good, this one's not, this one's good, but you shouldn't use it with this paper type of deal. So when I do tutorials and stuff, I will obviously tell you guys what materials I'm using, what ones I prefer to use, stuff like that. So you guys can know that. And then pretty much anything you guys have questions on, like I said, like if you guys are like, how do you draw faces? How do you get it proportionate? Or how did you learn perspective when you're drawing buildings or anything like that? You know what I mean? You guys let me know like what you're struggling with, because I'm here to help you guys. I want to let you know that I can be a resource for you to come to see little tutorials on how to do this and that, and then make sure that you guys are able to do it on your own, because I love inspiring new artists and meeting young people and even older people that are like, yeah, I've worked my whole life and now I want to paint. I'm like, great, come to my channel, I'll teach you some things, you know what I mean? So all right, so I think that's pretty much it on my background. But thank you guys so much for coming, checking out my channel, looking at my artwork. Don't forget to hit the link and subscribe. Hit that bell notification so that way you know when I post new videos, and I'll see you guys soon.